All right, let's get right into it. The sunk cost fallacy. It isn't just some small psychological quirk. It is a fundamental flaw that can absolutely dismantle even the most well-thought-out trading strategies. It's a trap, and believe me, it snares operators at every single level. But here's the good news. This is not a character flaw. It's an architectural problem in your trading operation, and today, we're going to install the fix.
So here's our briefing for today. We're going to start by identifying the enemy, the trap itself. Then we'll dissect the psychology that drives it. After that, we'll actually quantify the financial damage it causes, lay out a clear framework for discipline, and then finish up with how to execute that framework with cold, hard precision. It's a straight line from problem to solution. First things first, we have to clearly define what we're actually up against. In any operation, you have to identify the enemy before you can even think about defeating it. And make no mistake, the sunk cost fallacy is a direct threat to your capital and your performance.
Let me ask you a question, and be honest with yourself. Have you ever found yourself in a losing position, knowing in your gut you should cut it, but you just don't? You just hold on, hoping for that turnaround, telling yourself it'll come back? This is the #1 way this fallacy shows up. And look, we've all been there. So let's be really precise here. The sunk cost fallacy is our brain's tendency to let unrecoverable past investments, whether that's money, time, or just emotional energy, dictate our future decisions. Now, a rational operator knows that sunk costs are completely irrelevant. The only things that matter are future costs and future benefits. But as we all know, our brains, they're not always rational, are they?
Now, let's get into the mechanics of why this actually happens. This is not a failure of willpower. It's a feature of our cognitive architecture. These biases are literally hardwired into how we make decisions, which is exactly why we need a system, an operating architecture to override them. You have to understand this. These biases don't work alone. No, they create a perfect storm in your head. Loss aversion makes us terrified of taking a loss. In fact, studies show the pain is twice as powerful as the pleasure of a gain. Then you've got confirmation bias, which makes us hunt for any piece of information that supports our initial decision while we ignore everything that contradicts it. Anchoring locks our mind onto a totally irrelevant number, like our entry price. And finally, commitment bias makes us want to prove our past self was right. All of them together, they build a fortress of irrationality that's almost impossible to break without a defined process.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's look at the financial what. See, hope is not a strategy, and it has a very real, quantifiable cost to your bottom line. And we're not talking about small rounding errors here. This is a significant drag on your performance. The data on this is crystal clear. Portfolios that are crippled by the sunk cost fallacy underperform by as much as 20 to 30% annually. Just think about that for a second. A third of your potential gains just wiped out by a single correctable flaw in your decision-making.
And beyond the direct losses, you have opportunity cost. While your capital is trapped in a losing trade, you are missing other, better opportunities. Our research shows that operators miss out on as much as 40% of potentially profitable investments simply because their capital is tied up in dead weight.
And it gets worse. For those who don't just hold, but actually average down on a losing position, well, the data is brutal. They experience losses that are, on average, 2.8 times greater than their initially planned risk. You think you're fixing a mistake, but you're actually just multiplying it. So let's be very clear. This isn't just about losing some money on a few trades. If you're looking at this from a CEO's perspective, this is a systemic problem of inefficient capital allocation. It is an anchor on your growth, and it's preventing you from deploying your most valuable asset, your capital, to its highest and best use. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. And this isn't about finding some new hot tip. This is about installing a professional-grade operating architecture into your trading. This is the STOA methodology. The framework is really built on 3 core pillars. First, you set clear, non-negotiable exit rules before you even think about entering a trade. Second, you conduct systematic, regular portfolio reviews to assess your performance objectively. And third, you force your focus exclusively on future potential, completely ignoring past costs. This right here is the critical mindset shift. Every single decision you make has to be based on what lies ahead, not what's in the rearview mirror. And here's the single most powerful question you can ask to break this bias. If my portfolio were 100% cash right now, would I deploy capital into this exact asset at its current price? If the answer is anything but an immediate and resounding yes, well, you have your exit order. Look, a framework is useless without execution. This final part is all about implementation, how to remove your emotional bias self from the equation and just let the process run the show. The legendary trader Paul Tudor Jones captured the professional mindset perfectly. See, amateurs focus on how much they can make. Professionals focus on how much they can lose. Capital preservation is job number one, period. Your process has to be built on a foundation of rigorous risk management, not on hopeful profit chasing. This is where the theory becomes practice. You have to operationalize your exit strategy. Use data-driven tools to enforce your risk limits. Your stop loss, it's not a suggestion, it is a non-negotiable rule based on your analysis. Wherever possible, you should automate your exits to take the decision out of your hands in the heat of the moment. And finally, track your data. Your trade journal isn't a diary. It's a performance log that helps you identify and systematically eliminate your own patterns of bias. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. That need to be right, the refusal to admit you made a mistake, that's ego. And in the markets, your ego is the single most expensive liability you can have. Is your desire to justify a past decision costing you more than any single bad trade ever could? If you've made it this far, you're not just curious, you're serious. And that's exactly who Stoa was built for. And here's the deal. We don't accept everyone. We run on an application-only system because we only work with people who are truly ready to operate at the next level. So, if you want to stop wasting hours chasing noise and instead run a proven, documented process that gets results in less than 90 minutes a day, then you should apply now. There are limited seats, and once they're filled, they're gone for the quarter. Click the link in the description, fill out the short application, and let's see if you're a fit. If you're watching this, my guess is you already know you should.